All right. Welcome back. Today we're going to be going over a Warlock build with Sanguine Alchemy. As many may know, this got buffed this season, and I didn't think much of it, as most people probably did. Probably got overlooked, overshadowed by other things that were getting changed. But I will say that if it isn't already known, this thing will become DPS meta for raids, I think, eventually. And the reason why I say this, and the whole reason for this build, is because of this perk, Blood Magic. While standing in any rift, gain a bonus to weapons with a damage type matching your subclass damage type. Weapon final blows while standing in any rift, pause the rift's countdown, extending its duration. Now, the key point there is to point out this is any rift. You gain bonus weapon damage in any rift, as long as your weapons are matching your subclass. It doesn't matter if your teammates are or not. So you could use technically any weapon as long as one of your teammates or you puts down a rift. And I saw some damage numbers. I think Astrocross put out a video, it will be in the link down below, on the damage numbers of the rifts. It is something crazy. If you're in an empowering rift, it's 40% damage. If you put an empowering rift down inside of a well, you get a 42% damage boost. Like, this is crazy. Now, this does not stack with surge mods, but you don't need surge mods with this. A 42% damage boost is greater than any other damage boost in the game. And the reason why I'm saying that this will be boss meta damage is, again, the 42% damage boost, and it can be from anybody's rift. So it doesn't matter if you're getting kills or not, as long as your teammates keep putting down rifts inside of like a well or something, then you should be gaining the bonus damage no matter what. Now, again, that has to be empowering rift. So what is this build? We are going to be on Dawnblade for this build. I felt this has been the most efficient and effective one. There is a Void one, and this is only for Empowering Rift. You could technically pull it off if you have Healing Rift on any of the other ones. But for this build specifically, we're going to use Empowering Rift. So Solar is one of our only options for this. We have, again, Empowering Rift. This increases your damage while inside of your rift. Again, this stacks with Sanguine Alchemy, so you're getting a 40% damage boost for just standing inside your rift. Your melee doesn't matter. I put Healing Grenade on because it is the only way to really efficiently recover your health while standing in a rift. Fragments, you really want to take advantage of things that increase your restoration and recovery. So I have Ember of Tempering on. Solar Weapon Final Blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for short duration. And the reason why this is so good is because you're placing a empowering rift, so you want your teammates to be near you. So not only are you having your teammates near you, they're also gaining an empowering boost and a recovery stat boost. So it's just a win-win. I have this on just to gain radiance, and then applying restoration, cure, or radiant to allies grant increased grenade, melee, and class ability regen for a short duration. Ember of Solace. So radiant or restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. If you're standing in one place without a healing rift, you're going to find yourself taking a lot of damage. But if you could counteract it with something like grenades, like healing grenades, and then keep it going through the kills that you're getting from your solar weapons, it is really effective. And the reason why I said Void earlier with this empowering rift, you could also do this, is because of you gain Devour off of ability kills. And Devour is super strong. It's like restoration. You get your health back instantly after a kill, after it's active. So it is very, very, very useful. Now, what would you pair with this kind of a build? Now, personally, for stat distribution wise, I would go resilience, recovery, and discipline. Now, I don't have discipline. That's just because I have been extremely unlucky with my Warlock armor drops. And as you can see, my Sanguine Alchemy does not have very good discipline. So I decided to spec into strength and using my strength ability to give me more discipline. And what I mean by that is through mods, something like this. Causing damage with your melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. If you stack this is actually a great mitigator of how long it takes to get your grenade back. And being that I have a high strength stat, I'll be getting my melee quite often, and I'll be able to just generate my grenade cooldown based purely off of using my melee effect. You could also do this with orb generation. If you have on Innervation, reduce grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb, but that's really good. It's just basically, if you want to do this build, you're going to want a higher discipline stat than I have. But there are ways around it if you're unlucky like me and keep getting armor that does not benefit your grenade stat. Realistically, your mods really don't matter. The mainstay of this is Sanguine Alchemy and making sure that you can stay alive inside of an empowering rift. Having healing grenades and ways to extend the restoration effect and your recovery Now for weapons, I'm using Vex Mythoclast, but for those that can't get Vex Mythoclast or can't get it to drop, I would recommend something like a Trace Rifle. I found wave frames extremely useful, but there aren't very many solar wave frames. You could also use other solar primaries, like the DPS'er is pretty useful. It's just a matter of what you feel comfortable with. And the thing is, you got to remember, you're getting a 40% damage boost inside of your Empowering Rift with Sanguine Alchemy equipped. So all solar weapons are going to be hitting like trucks, especially exotic primaries. So something like Sunshot will be dealing a lot of damage. Now also using a solar heavy, you could put on a rocket like Apex Predator, you could be putting on Gallahorn, you could be putting on Sleeper Stimulant. Like, there is a lot of good exotic primaries that you could be using with this that just dish out a ton of damage. Or even something like Briar's Contempt. This is one of the highest damaging linears in the game if you get the right perks. I do not have the right perks on. But if you have something like Surrounded for certain boss damage phases, or you have, what's another good one? Focus Fury, or even Frenzy, and Envious Assassin. Like, this build is kind of crazy. Now, this isn't that long of a video, but I really wanted to touch on the implications that, you know, as of recently, it's been noted that Warlocks have become, in the community's eyes, as one of the weaker classes. And I only say that because how hard it is to actually solo stuff on Warlocks compared to the other classes. And I'll say that really is only happening because Titans have access to the Bonk Hammer build and Hunters with the combination blow. Otherwise, excluding those, they're really not that much different. But because those things are such extreme outliers, Warlock kind of gets thought of as a very weak class, at least in solo content. But I would say in group content, there really isn't any comparing, because with this build, even just applying an Empowering Rift and Sanguine Alchemy, or even a Healing Rift and Sanguine Alchemy, applying just a straight buff to your weapon's damage for pretty much for free, especially for things like GMs where you're walking around really slowly, you kind of sit in one spot and peek and poke at the enemy to whittle them down. Like, this is a very, very, very useful build. And the thing is, if you have a second Warlock on your team, even if they're not running Sanguine Alchemy, you still get the benefits inside of their rift. So let's say you're running Empowering Rift and your teammate's running Healing Rift, you both pop down a rift on the same place, you take advantage of having a Healing Rift and an Empowering Rift and the 40% damage buff all at the same time. And the thing is, when you get kills, it extends both rifts. That's crazy to me. That's crazy that that exists. But hey, I'm all for it. It is a cool build that relies on teammates that can really benefit your teammates, because not only are they getting the Healing Rift, they're getting an Empowering Rift. Now, they won't get the Sanguine Alchemy benefit unless they have it on, but how hard is it to just be like, yo, put Sanguine Alchemy on, put a Healing Rift on, and we both can take advantage of this. And you both can be just popping rifts down at the same place, and you're pretty much in a well. Not to mention the benefits that this has in well. Literally, you pop your well and then your Empowering Rift, and you gain the 42% damage buff, but also being unkillable in a well. This is a insane build that I hope doesn't get nerfed because of how much it relies on either your teammates to support or relies on you keeping yourself alive, right? You got to remember that to get this 40% damage buff, you have to be on Empowering Rift, which in and of itself, requiring you to stand pretty much still inside of a rift is very dangerous and high-end content. So without an efficient way to keep yourself alive, this build is not going to thrive. It's not going to be good, because I've tried it on all the classes. Strand, you can't efficiently pick up orbs enough to get Woven Mail. And even if you're getting Woven Mail, there's no recovery. If you're taking enough damage where you got to worry about dying, you're not going to be getting enough recovery to make Strand worth it. I'm sure there's a way you could do it, but I don't see it as being as simple as using Solar or Void. Stasis is the same, but there's ways you could mitigate damage, but there's no way of recovery as efficiently as Solar or Void. And Arc falls under the same vein. And that's why I think Bungie probably won't nerf this, is because of all the requirements that it needs to meet to make this build effective, is that you need to be able to restore your health efficiently and effectively. And most of the subclasses can't do it efficiently and effectively. Solar and Void are really the only two, which you might be like, well, Solar is literally one of the strongest subclasses on Warlock because of Well. And I'm like, you're right. That has nothing to do with Sanguine Alchemy. That has everything to do with Well itself. Well, as most know, is the strongest super in the game. Bar none, it is the strongest super in the game. And until it gets changes, right, this build will be utterly busted. Even if it gets changes, it will still be busted. But the point I'm going at is I think Bungie would nerf Well before they would nerf something like this. At least I'd hope so. If they nerf this, either this wasn't the intended outcome, which sucks, gotta deal with it, or they just don't like us having fun builds that have high risk, high reward. Because again, this is a high risk, high reward build, because you're having to depend on either kills with Void to proc Devour, or having enough restoration to stay alive, because you have to stand still for this build to be effective. That's why I'm saying for boss meta damage, this might be king, because most of the time you're standing still for boss damage, or in some form or another you're having to set up in a place to deal boss damage. Now, if you stuck around this long, I want to thank you. I appreciate your time. And if you like the content, then like and subscribe, comment down below anything that I missed, or if there's any possible way to improve this build. And again, the reason why there's no dim link is because this build's very basic. Realistically, you just want to have at minimum a healing grenade, empowering rift, and sanguine alchemy, and a solar weapon. So really, other than Sanguine Alchemy and Empowering Rift and a Healing Nade, everything else is up to you. Take it as you will. If people want to suggest certain things that you could do with this build down in the comments, be free to. And I want to thank you for your time.